Hello again, it's Gareth here in London, and this is the second of my conversations with Jack Fordon. If you saw the first video, you may know that Jack is an American from Michigan studying Slavic languages in Heidelberg, so through the medium of German, as a German student really. So nice to see you again, Jack. Hi.
Nice to see you too.
Today I wanted to talk a bit about the actual subjects that you're studying, so the Slavic languages. You're doing 3 of them. Which are the 3 that you're studying?
I'm studying all 3, so I take courses on all 3 of the languages. Oh, which 3?
Yeah.
Russian, Czech, and Croatian.
And Croatian. So,
yeah.
And have you started them all as a first-year freshman undergraduate in Heidelberg, more or less?
Yes, yeah. I started them all from scratch, more or less.
So there was a lot of pressure initially on you all, I suppose, to study quite intensively. How did they begin to teach you these languages?
So for Russian, we had a 2-week-long course before the actual first semester started, where we learned the alphabet, because most of us didn't know the alphabet, and we learned the very basics of the language. And it was kind of like the typical method for learning languages with complex grammar. They introduced one case after another, and then we got the plural in there. And one of my teachers, he would always have us watch videos in the language and then describe them, which we were always terrified of. And we would also have to write stories describing these comic strips, what we saw in the comics, what we thought was going on. And really we just built up semester by semester. And after 4 semesters, we were supposed to be at a B2 level. I would say most of us were probably a little bit lower than that, but we definitely had a firm grip of the language.
So that was after 2 years, really, 4 semesters
then? Yeah. 2 years.
Yeah. So that was, Russian's your major, is it, with the other 2 languages as minors?
Well, no, my major... my major is Slavic Studies, so for this major, so you can divide up your studies here according to different percentages. So I have 75% Slavic Studies and then 25% my minor. And for somebody who is studying 75% Slavic Studies, you need to study at least 2 Slavic languages. But I was also really interested in Czech, so that's why I'm studying 3. And they're all, in theory, they're all equal. There's not one that's inferior to the other. But in practice, usually people's Russian tends to be the stronger of their 2 languages, because most people study Russian.
Yeah, because I suppose that's the best known and seen as the biggest language in a sense.
Yeah, it's on the international scale, it's the most useful. I mean, if you want to work close to Germany and maybe one of the neighboring countries like Poland or the Czech Republic, then you focus more on those languages. But yeah, Russian is the main one.
And why did you choose Serbian Croatian instead of Bulgarian or Polish or Slovenian?
So I had been to the Balkans, especially Bosnia and Croatia numerous times, and I already knew a few people down there, and I had a little bit of a dabbling in the language, so I knew that I wanted to do Croatian. And then Russian had always fascinated me, and it's also obviously the language that you can use to get around the best end of all the Slavic languages. The Russian-speaking area of the world is just enormous. So that's why I chose Russian. And the Czech Republic, it's not very well known for most people. It's right next door to Germany, so that's kind of how I decided to start studying Czech in my 3rd semester.
And I would imagine my only Slavic language is Russian, but I can already work out quite a lot, particularly the written language, in other Slavic languages. So if you've done one well, thoroughly, it seems to me you've got a huge flying start with the others. But on the other hand, maybe there's a risk of interference. So could you say a bit about some of the pluses and cons of doing more than one such closely related languages?
Well, for me personally, I can't speak for everyone, but I definitely have a problem with interference. For me, I might speak Czech at a upper B2 level, but when I'm in Russia and someone asks me to speak Czech, sometimes I just can't even get any words out, because I just have Russian all around me. I've been speaking Russian. So really, it's a struggle to work past this kind of blockage in your head, which causes you to not be able to use both languages on a whim, because I definitely have a problem with mixing them up if I'm in a particular Slavic country, or even if I'm not. Actually, in countries that aren't Slavic speaking, for example in Germany, I find it a lot easier to switch between them, but I still do mix the languages up. So,
but I suppose when you go to the Czech Republic, you very quickly get back into Czech, or if you watch a Czech video on YouTube or something, or read a few pages, you're tuned back into the Czech, I suppose, quite quickly.
Yeah, so understanding is never an issue. Whenever I hear someone speak the language, sometimes I don't even really register which one it is, but I do understand them. But then speaking myself, that can be a challenge. So what I've been working on now that I've gotten back from my exchange semesters in the Czech Republic and in Russia is practicing both languages on a daily basis, and then working to kind of take them apart in my head, because I think they're all in like one drawer in my head right now, and I gotta separate them.
As you've studied the three, are there things that are particularly difficult in one or the other? Differences which surprised you? Would you say one is easier than the other two objectively, or does it just depend which one you study most?
You know, each time I'm in a Slavic country, I always think that language is the hardest of the Slavic languages. So I wouldn't say objectively that any of them are easier or more difficult. They all have their difficulties. For example, one thing in the Czech Republic that I found a little confusing at first is, you know, in Russian that the masculine and neuter for two is dva, and then for the feminine is dvě. And in the Czech Republic, only the masculine is dva, and the neuter and the feminine is dvě. So you'd say dvě piva instead of dva piva, like you would in German. So, in Russian. So that was confusing. In the Czech, in Czech they also count differently. So in Russian you have the whole genitive for counting. It's одна машина, две машины, and so on. And in Czech they do it differently. So they use the nominative too for the numbers 2 to 4. And so the nominative plural, so that's normal. And then once you hit 5, then it's like Russian again. But then it stays in the genitive plural all the way for the rest of the numbers, and it doesn't go back. It doesn't revert at 20. So that's so there's like little differences that can trip you up.
And have you found people in all three countries equally encouraging as you've gone there to practice and use the languages?
Yeah, definitely. I was kind of expecting that the Russians wouldn't really care as much, because there's probably more people that learn Russian, but they were all very happy to meet a foreigner who was so interested in their language, and they were all very helpful. Yeah, really, every country I've been to.
And you've just spent a semester abroad in St. Petersburg, is that right?
Yeah, I was in St. Petersburg. Was that arranged by Heidelberg University, or did you have to arrange that yourself? No, I applied here, and I had my interview for it here. And so it's a program, it's a joint program with the university in St. Petersburg.
And that you had a good time?
Yeah, I loved it. St. Petersburg is a really beautiful city.
You were there in the autumn and winter, so a bit dark?
Yeah, very dark. That was definitely one of the things that got me down the most. If you didn't wake up early enough, then you wouldn't see any sun the whole day. But
yeah, I spent a full year there when I was a grad student in St. Petersburg, and it's beautiful, an amazing place. But certainly the winter, the darkness is the thing to struggle with.
Yeah, getting to class at 9 a.m. and it's still being completely dark out. Yeah. The sun would rise around 10, and then it would set again before 4. So that was.
It's the opposite in the summer. Come June, it doesn't get dark. The white nights. That's amazing. Everybody's full of energy and.
Yeah, I kind of regret not doing the semester in the spring, because I really would have liked to experience that. But the Russian winter is also really beautiful.
Yeah. And you travelled around quite a bit, to judge by the vlogs I found on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Which other places have you seen?
So earlier on in the semester, I took a few trips relatively closer to St. Petersburg. So I went to Murmansk in the far north, and I was up there by the Arctic Ocean. I visited this really small village up there too called Tyrivierka, which is actually, for the locals in that area, it's like their little resort town that they go to on the Arctic Ocean. It's just beautiful nature. I went to Moscow too. I visited friends in Arkhangelsk, and on my birthday I actually went to Sochi, so that was really beautiful. And then in January, before my exams, I took the train all the way from St. Petersburg to Vladivostok, and I visited several cities along the way.
Wow, it's encouraging to hear, because I think that Russia gets an awful lot of bad press at the moment in Britain.
Yeah, not just in Germany and in the US too, definitely in the US. I really think it's a shame.
And it's great to hear somebody travelling around, freely, enjoying themselves in the country.
Yeah. It's always kind of disappointing when I go back to the US and then, people that have never been to Russia or even here in Germany, and they have all these stereotypes and cliches of Russians, and it really, when you travel to the country, you see that so much of that isn't true. There are some things that I don't think are the greatest in Russia, but all in all, I really do love the country.
And people can see from your vlogs then a little of what it's like. How did you get into vlogging originally?
Well, I love YouTube, and I would follow other people's vlogs, especially their travel vlogs, and I'd follow several language vlogs too. And then I thought to myself, well, I mean, I do some interesting things in my life, so maybe I could start blogging about that too. And I also was thinking it'd be an outlet for using my languages, building up connections with people in other countries that speak other languages. So yeah, that's kind of how I started off.
That's a really noticeable thing about you, Jack, actually, that you do vlog in the languages that you're learning. I've noticed on Facebook too, you often communicate with people in German or Czech or Russian. So you really are using social media as a way of maybe practicing your languages and building the contacts with people, as you say, most of all.
Yeah, big time. Social media is a great way for practicing languages, especially if you aren't able to travel to the country as often as you'd like. I use Facebook all the time to keep in touch with people, to read the news in different languages, or just keep up with social media from the individual countries.
And do you think in the long term you'll keep, these languages are going to have a part in your life? What sort of plans do you have for the future with them?
Well, I sure hope to keep using my languages, especially once I start working. I've thought about several different possibilities, but we'll just have to see. I was thinking I'd like to maybe work for the EU in their language department, or for me, mainly I'd just like to use my languages when working.
So many ways you'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
You can cross that bridge when you get to it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good luck with the rest of your studies. Kudos for taking on three of these Slavic beasts or wonders. I don't know how to describe them. I take my hat off to you, certainly, and I think you're really an inspiration to all of us who are involved in Slavic languages, and also to those of us who try to use social media as part of our language learning. So good luck and thanks a lot. Cheers. Пока.
Nice talking to you. Bye.